Hi everyone, I'm Molly and welcome to Goodie Gumdrops. Today I'm going to be making a Polish donut called Paczkis. So in America, every maybe like the second Tuesday of the month of February, there's a thing called Fat Tuesday where they sell Paczkis everywhere. And today is the day before that day, and I'm half Polish, so I'm going to be making some homemade Paczkis. So what you'll need is some more milk that I microwaved for about a minute, yeast, vanilla, butter, eggs, sugar, flour, and a little bit of salt. So the first thing to do is take a half of a cup of milk that's been warmed, put it into a bowl, and add your butter. So add the butter, 2 tablespoons of butter, and then I'm going to try and get this to melt in with the milk here. Now that the butter has melted into the milk, I'm going to add some other ingredients. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, a 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm also going to add a small amount of salt and 2 eggs. And the reason that I didn't put the butter with the milk when it heated up was because the butter being cold brought down the temperature of the milk as I stirred it in, so I don't want my eggs to cook in the milk and butter and sugar and everything. So that's why you don't want to heat your butter up with your milk, or have soft butter. That butter was cold and straight out of the refrigerator. So I'm going to whisk this all together. And now I am going to add 1 teaspoon of yeast. So I have an active dry yeast packet here. Each packet is over 2 teaspoons, so you're going to want about half a package, a little bit less. I need to get some scissors. So I'm going to mix the yeast in, and now I am slowly going to add 2 cups of flour to this. And you can mix this up with a dough hook if you want. I'm going to use a wooden spoon because I broke my mixer a couple days ago. So either way will work. So I'm going to add about a half of a cup at a time, and just slowly mix the flour in with this other liquid ingredients. This is the old-fashioned way to mix like they would have before electric mixers were invented, or if you had like one of those like twirly whisks. So I've got 1 cup of flour in there. Now I'm adding the 2nd cup. You want to make sure that it's nice and smooth when you're mixing it and no lumps of flour. Now that the dough is mixed up, I'm going to knead it for 5 minutes on a floured surface. So it will be pretty sticky. So you want to make sure that your hands are floured when you're doing this. Is a very simple process. I have the dough here, so you just fold it and push down with your hand, and you continue that process over and over for 5 minutes. After you've kneaded the dough for 5 minutes, I place flour in this bowl and just put it back in the bowl, cover it with saran wrap, cover it with plastic wrap and a towel, and let it rest for 1 hour to 2 hours until it's doubled in size. Now I'll be back in just a second to show you what to do next. The dough has rested for 1 hour to 1.5 hours. It's been about 1 hour and 10 minutes. This is doubled in size. So what I'm going to do now is roll it out to about 1/2 inch thick and then cut it into the round shape that I want. And to cut this, I don't have like a donut cutter or anything, so I'm just going to use a cup or a glass. I'm going to use this glass right here. I'm going to take some flour, put flour on the rim, and then cut my Paczki shapes. And then after these are cut, you're going to want to leave them sit out for 1/2 hour to let them rise again, and just cover them with plastic wrap. And in just a second I will show you some cream filling that I'm going to make. You can also use jelly if you want to fill them with jelly. You can use pretty much anything you want. Now I'm going to make the cream filling. The first thing I'm going to do is separate 2 eggs. I only want the egg yolks. I'm going to put these in a small bowl. Hold on, I'm doing this backwards. I need some place to drain the yolks into, or the white into there. Just getting a little nervous. Misspoke. So 1 egg yolk. Second one. Next, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a small amount of salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt into a saucepan. So now I'm adding 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this together. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of milk. These are 1/2 cups that I'm adding, so 2 cups of milk. And now I'm going to bring this to a boil over medium heat until it boils and thickens. So I'm going to stir this constantly until it comes up to a boil and thickens. So after this started to come to a boil, I turn the heat down to medium-low, and I cooked it for 1 minute. Now I'm going to add the egg yolks, but before I do that, I'm going to temper the yolks by adding some of this hot liquid into the yolk, a little bit at a time. This is very important to do correctly because you don't want your yolks to curdle. So you just add a small amount at a time. You can remove this mixture from the heat if you want. Now that my eggs have been tempered, I'm going to pour this whole mixture back into the milk mixture, bring it back up to a boil, and cook for 1 minute. So I'm still going to slowly add this in too. I'm not going to just dump it all in at once. So I've been stirring this constantly. So next I'm going to remove this from the heat, add 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Then I'm going to transfer this into another bowl and allow it to cool. The next thing I'm going to do is fry my dough, and if you take some water and splash it on the oil and it starts to bubble like this, then you'll know that it's hot enough. It should be about 350 degrees, so I'm going to put my pierogi in there and let it cook for about 2 minutes on each side, and then I'm going to place it on a wire rack to drain and cool. Now that my Paczkis have cooled, and so has my filling, I'm ready to inject them, and I have this device to help me do it. So if you don't have one of these, you can just cut like a little hole in them and then just spoon the filling into it. What I also did was, this has a skin on top of it as it cooled, so I just peeled the skin off with a spoon and then mixed it back up. So I'm going to spoon this in here and inject these into my Paczkis, and then I'm going to dip them in sugar. If you want, you can use powdered sugar. I don't have any confectioner sugar right now, so I'm just going to use regular granulated sugar, but either one is fine. This one kind of burst out. I put too much in. Here are my finished Paczkis, and don't forget, if you don't like the cream filling, you can always use any kind of jelly that you want. So here's the best part of my show, where I get to taste my creations. This tastes very good, and I really enjoy the cream a lot. These are definitely one of my favorite sweet treats. So if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and come back for more goodies, and you will see me in the next video. Bye!